Hey guys, how are we doing? I'm making the follow-up video to What Is It? And that's the sign right there from the machine that came off of. That stands for, it's called ARAM 1, Automated Razor Assembling Machine number 1, and the hint was Gillette. And let's go see what it is. All right. Heating the garage up. Getting ready to do some paint. I got all the bus parts waiting. Kind of hanging around like a big meat locker. They're all primed yesterday. It's snowing out right now. But let's get to what we're getting at. All right. This is what it made. The sensor line probably came out, I think it was 87, I think it started right around there. And they made sensor. It was the first one it started out with. Then it went to sensor XL handles, and then Gillette sensor 3, which is just basically a later version of the same thing with a little larger grips, different color. So what this thing did was, I'm going to show you actually the machine first. Probably be an easier way to go and do it. This is the main part of the ARAM. It was actually 4 different machines in one. There was an ARAM, there was what was called a Remley, and then there was 2 shell feeding stations over here. So metal strips would come in trays. There would be a stock clerk here who would feed shells onto these conveyors. The strips had, I think it was 18 or 24 per strip. It would go into a machine, the machine would break the shells off of the strip, stick them on a conveyor, and then they would line up on a conveyor. Same thing on this side. And then I'm also talking about everything that feeds it. This is wrong, it's not a logo. This should be grips. These are bowls, they're vibratory bowls. You look at them, kind of look like magic because all the parts would be moving around in the bowl, but it didn't look like the bowl was actually moving. But if you look at it, the bowl was kind of going up and down on an angle like this, very small. And there were fiber blocks did that. So you had 2 grip bowls, one there and one there would feed to it. There was a weight bowl that fed to it. There was 2 logo bowls over here, and there was a spine bowl on the back side of it. And there would be another operator operating this machine. This is called the Remley over here. I ran out of room, but anyway, this was a machine that boxed up the final product. And there was a bowl in the middle of that conveyor setup with the cartridges or blanks, whatever were being used at the time. So this had little pucks going around it on a conveyor. They would wait for this machine. But to start out with, this is how this operated. The very first assembly was actually the very last assembly. The beginning of the machine, end of the machine. Very last thing that would happen was a spine would come down and get loaded into the nest. And that's what you see right there. I'm going to pop the weight back out of it. One-handed. Okay. So it would go around, a spine would get inserted into the nest would go under the machine, travel all the way under and come up to this side, and the very first thing that would happen was it would there was checks and balances all over the machine. There was a bunch of proximity switches, a bunch of cameras, and it was a check basically for each component to make sure that there was something there. If a spine fell out or something, it would just lock all the stations out. But the first thing would get put in was the spine that you saw back there. Then the conveyors would pick up the shells with a pick and place with vacuum heads, little arms, and would drop a shell on each side. Then it would go along. These are grips, not logos. And another head with a vacuum would pick the grips up and drop them in on each side. The Excel grips kind of just sit in there, where the sensor one's actually snapped in. It would put a grip in each side, then again it would check for a grip. After it went to that station, now we're looking at from the back of the machine. An arm would come out and it would push a weight into it. There we go. And then a camera would look for the weight And then right about where the operator sat was station 10. They used to close everything up. That's where these nest wings kind of came into play. A cam would come in here and a cam would come in from the backside, close the nest wings up, and there was keepers that held the shells in place when these were flipping up. This is probably the most problematic area in the whole thing. Let me close that up for you. I'll show you. Both would close up at the same time. And you would have basically an assembled handle at that point. Then there was something on it called a cold head. That's what that little window is for. And inside there, that spine had plastic sticking out of each side. It stuck out each side of the shell. As you can kind of see them right here. These are the ones I cut off to take it back apart. And they would hold the shell together. And then a camera would go look at that. And if it agreed that it was okay, it would have to count a certain amount of pixels inside there to make sure that that cold head was a good cold head. A lot of times it didn't get assembled very well, so that's what it would look to see if it was good or no good. If that was okay, it would load a logo, again being held by vacuum. This I'm not going to be able to install, but a logo would get popped in on each side of it, squeezed together. Now it's all said and done, the nest would open back up again. See if we can hold it all together without falling apart. I lost it. Bear with me. Anyway, I lost the whole thing. Everything fell out of it. So anyway, so that you would end up having a final assembly that looked like that. This would get grabbed, picked up off of the A-ram, put on what was called a puck. The puck is what went around this conveyor. That puck would have either a cartridge or a blank in it, and it would pick the raw handle up. It would pick it up and snap it into this cartridge, and then it would go off to the packing machine. The packing machine would stick them in trays, and then they would go off to kind of just be in storage until they got used however they want to be used. One handle with 4 cartridges, one handle with 3 cartridges, 2, 5. It all depends on how it got shipped out, you know. So that was the final assembly of what it did in this location. This machine doesn't exist anymore. Probably about 10 years ago they dismantled it, and it actually ended up being cheaper to go, probably China or whatever it was. It was some foreign country, and they just, for the amount of life that was left on this product line, because now it's an older product line, went to manual assembly. So these ran at like, if you run them up to 80 a minute, it ran actually better at about 65 a minute. The slower you ran it, the less problems that you had. But you had 2 operators, 2 stock clerks, and a mechanic per machine running it. And this is a fairly large machine. This is probably 25 feet wide by 65 feet long total. It took up a lot of room. There's a lot to it. To give you an idea, I think it has 100,000 components. Yep. It was over 200 MAC valves alone just running the machine. There was over 200 proximity switches. Give you an idea, there's 63 nests per, and you're probably looking, there's probably 40 or 50 pieces per nest that are on there, and it has to be very precision to do what it's doing. Repeat itself time and time again and hold up. That's why the cost of the nest were so expensive. But again, they don't exist anymore. Pretty much anybody who worked in the area when they were dismantling and trashing everything grabbed the nest as like a souvenir. Everything was gone. They just kind of, they didn't even save anything really. They just pretty much scrapped everything, just dismantled it so it doesn't exist anymore. But there's not much video of it. Of course, you know, while it's in production, they don't want to give their information out as far as how they're making stuff. Maybe I shouldn't be making this now, but maybe I'll make it private after you guys see it. Anyway, it is in, you guys watched American Chopper, Orange County Choppers, when they made the Gillette bike. They actually had Mikey and I think it was Junior were upstairs, and they were doing a spoof of Laverne and Shirley when they worked in the beer store, and they threw a glove over one of the pucks going by, and Mikey pretended like he was working on the assembly line. That is actually the machine. That was one of the pucks that you saw. They were right in this area playing around. Let me just go shut my alarm off so it doesn't go crazy. The
system disarmed.
Really neat place to work. It changed a lot. It was bought by Procter & Gamble at some point, and all good things must come to an end. I worked on a lot of different machines there, learned a lot, anywhere from worked in plastics, final assembly, cartridge area, packaging, each and every area of the factory I pretty much worked over the course of 18 years. But this is probably I would say the main one. I was probably on this machine for about 10 years as a mechanic, then a group leader for it. So it was interesting nonetheless. I enjoyed it. Figure you guys might like to see how something was made. And that's gonna wrap it up. You guys like this kind of videos, leave me a comment. I'll make more of this kind of stuff. It's a little slow during the winter time, just like everybody says. There's not much videos out there, so I figure maybe we'll mix it up and start doing some stuff like this, you know. Anybody else that wants to maybe make one also, we'll do a what is it every once in a while. All right, thanks for watching, and take care.